All right. Hi, everybody.
Hi, everybody. I'm numerologist Sue Coffin, and I'm here with our trusted and good friend, astrologer Dorothy Morgan. And
Hi,
she's going
everybody.
to talk to us today about Mercury Retrograde, who is coming in next month.
Next month.
And I don't know, Dorothy, but I'm having
Yeah.
a lot of people tell me they're not sleeping well.
Yes,
Does this have to do with the planet?
it does have to do with the planets. I'm not sleeping well either. I'll admit it. And I can read the planets.
Yeah.
It's there is so much in the air with we have 3 planets right now that are in the sign of Capricorn, and they are what represents what's going on here on planet Earth. Actually, all the planets are what represent what's going on here on planet Earth. They don't cause things. I know sometimes we say that by accident, but they don't cause anything. They are a representation of what we're going through, whether it's in our personal chart or, again, out in the world. And so a lot of people aren't sleeping, and it depends on how certain planets are interacting with other planets personally. But collectively, we're all unsure about the future. And
Right.
when we're unsure about the future, even though that's really never changed, but right now we really are feeling the angst and the energy of what's going on around us. That creates anxiety and that creates sleeplessness. So you might not actually have physical, like shaking, anxiety, panic attacks, but a different layer of that is not being able to sleep because
Right.
you're worried of what you can't control.
Yeah.
And so that makes things really difficult. So let me see if I can share my screen, and I'll just, I'll figure it out. Hold on.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's Zoom. Where are we? Here we go. All right, share my screen. Oh, you have to give me permission to share the screen. I don't know how you do that part, but if not, that's okay.
I got it.
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if oh, yay. All right. So we'll share that. So here's just, what's going on today at my latitude and longitude here. I'm in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So you can just see all the stuff going on inside here.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be able to read that because I know plenty of people are not astrologers. This represents what's going on at this moment in time. And there is a ton. There is so much that is creating stress and uncertainty, anxiety. This isn't even Mercury retrograde yet, but that's these Capricorn planets where we feel uncertain. Mars in Aries retrograde. I think we talked about that last time, right? Yeah. Maybe not. I can't remember what we talked about last time, but Mars is retrograde now in the sign of Aries. He went retrograde September 9th. And so Mars in Aries is about expressing our anger or our excitement, doing what we want to do for ourselves. It is very self-focused energy. It's very raw. It's just like, I'm going to do this and that's what I'm going to do. You just think of like the 2-year-old they just go for what they want. They don't think about what's going on around them. They don't think about repercussions. They don't think about the past or the future. They just go. That's Mars in Aries. Now it's useful. It helps a lot of people when it transits through every couple of years. It gives us that opportunity for courage and to step up where we don't typically step up, right?
Right.
But now what's going on with this is it's stirring up for a lot of unconscious people. It's stirring up a lot of the stresses and the violence and that we're seeing, right? The violence, not the protests.
Right.
The protests, it is helping that, it is, helping that cause as well. But when it flips a switch and becomes really negative energy, that's just the negative piece of Mars in Aries. And with
How
it
long
retrograde.
is Mars retrograde? Is that a long? I mean,
It's going to be a long time.
It is a long time.
It is a long time. So it started on September 9th and it will end on November 13th or the 14th. Let me look.
So this unsettledness could continue through till November.
It will continue. It will continue. Yeah, it changes on Friday the 13th.
Ah.
We'll just add in a little superstition in there too, right?
Ah,
November, Friday the 13th, Mars is stationary, and then we have a new moon the next day. But what that represents, so Mars is in Aries from September 9th all the way into January, early January 2021. So he's spending nearly 7 months, 6.5, almost 7 months in the sign of Aries, when it's usually the movement through a sign for Mars is around 7 weeks.
oh,
He's
wow.
spending, but that happens every 2 years when Mars retrogrades, only every 2 years.
Uh-huh.
The last time he was retrograde in Aries was August, September 1988.
And,
So
and when Mars retrogrades, it usually brings up the ability, like you said, courage to speak your truths.
it's going to stir up many things. And again, it depends on what lane you're in,
Uh-huh.
you know.
Right.
And do I need, it now that it's retrograde energies, as we'll talk about with Mercury as well, things need to be more internalized, and we need to slow things down, and we need to process. So this first part of Mars direct, from in Aries, when it first moved into that sign, oh my gosh, that was back in when it first moved in, was the very last day of June, but it went retrograde on September 9th. So from all of July, all of August, part of September, Mars and Aries moving forward, courage, but that was also, again, the rise and protests, and
Yeah.
and even, like I said, the worst stuff, people really getting angry
Right.
and violent and things like that. But for you, what were you doing for yourself personally? All right. Personally,
Right.
where were you going? What were you doing? Where were you finding your strength and your courage?
Right.
Now, as of September 9th, all the way till November 13th, when Mars is retrograde, this is an opportunity to say, okay, I did this. How did that work out? It's more like reevaluating what you did go forward with.
Yeah.
All right. In that time from the end of June to September 9th, when it was direct. So as it's retrograde all the way through November 13th, we're going to be processing that. And then when it goes direct, we'll be taking more steps forward between now and January. So the energy of this is what's causing a lot of anxiety for people, Mars and Aries, because, it's somewhere in our chart. We all have all the signs around our chart somewhere, but it's stirring up things it hasn't stirred up in a long time. Personal choices, personal anger. I'm really upset with you about this. And it's not just, you don't have to think of it just as like screaming anger.
Yeah.
There are things like just being pissed off,
Right.
or feeling like that's not fair.
Yeah.
Why does this person get this and that and I don't? It's all of those little digs at yourself, or those little digs that just, life isn't fair, when, and we all do it,
Yeah.
in our
Yeah,
own
I
way.
can relate. I can
Yeah.
relate. There's somebody at work that's just made me, and I don't usually hold on to things, and
Yeah.
this person's just driving me over the edge.
Yeah.
And I keep having to keep relaxing myself and
Yeah.
know that time will pass, things will pass.
It will, but we also have to remember that it's also about taking steps. Excuse me. It is also about taking those steps. We need to take some steps forward. We need to be able to speak up for ourselves.
Right.
And currently, right here and now, we're just recording this on September 20th, as you can see here in the chart. Whenever you hear this, it's all right. Mercury in Libra, we're going to talk about him in just a minute. Mercury in Libra right now is coming to be opposite Mars. So over the next few days, it's gonna amp up. And they're all square, these Capricorn planets, which is the destruction and the way things are being destroyed and falling apart, where we're stable or not stable. So Mars is squaring these three planets off and on 3 times. So that's 9 hits between Mars and Aries. Who am I? What am I going to do? How am I taking these steps forward? Am I angry? Do I let my anger out? Because I really need to process this stuff and get it over with. We need to process things and get it over with.
Right.
And how am I going to do that? And all of these things, plus more, is what's going on with this stuff, with what's going on, and why people are feeling anxious and not able to sleep. And there could be even other things because, again, everybody has their own personal, blueprint.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
those are big pieces of what's going on right now. And then we can get to Mercury.
Wow.
This is big. This is big stuff. I mean, the Mercury retrograde's going to feel like a walk in the park.
And how long do you project out that this is going to be in turmoil? Till November 13th or even further?
Yeah. Really, it's just a what show these days.
Yeah, oh, definitely. But I always say you have to hit rock bottom before you can get healthy again.
Yeah.
So this is
And
what
so,
we're
and the thing
working
is, this is what we're working on. And so
Right.
this is one of the bigger pieces for all of us, especially with the Mars retrograde. Again, we did not have Mars retrograde in this sign since 1988.
Mm.
Every 2 years it's retrograde in a sign, but sometimes it doesn't always get back to that one quickly.
Wow.
But 1988, that was 32 years ago.
It'd be
So,
interesting to go back and look and see what was going on in 1988.
oh yeah, plenty of things.
Yeah.
But the thing is, back in 1988, Mars in Aries was not squaring this pile up in Capricorn. That was not there.
Yeah.
And that's the big message for that. So we have to decide what we're looking, how this works for us. We really have to pay attention to that. So let me make sure I'm sharing the new one here. I just want to share that. There we go. That way I don't have to worry about new shares. All right. So here is what we typically talk about in our forecast here with me and Sue is the retrograde of Mercury. And here is the day that Mercury goes retrograde. And that will be October 13th. It's at 9:05 p.m. and this is Eastern time zone. The point is always, always, always on the day, because Mercury is typically a fast moving planet. The day before, the day of, the day after is when the planet is what we call stationary. And there'll be an end date. I'll get that one after we're done talking about this one. Those are the days we typically feel the most frustration because it's just hard to move. It's just like, you forgot to take your emergency brake off, and you're trying to go forward or back out of the driveway or whatever. And you're like, what? And all of a sudden you realize, oh yeah, put it down. And then you get to go either reverse or direct. Right now, Mercury will be going direct on October 13th. 13 seems to be an interesting number, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Mars goes Mars goes direct on November 13th. This one goes retrograde October 13th. So, but it's a Tuesday. So what are we going to do with this? So Mercury will be in Scorpio starting on, because this is good to know, because Mercury in the sign, it wants us in Scorpio, it wants us to September 27 it enters Scorpio. It wants us to really slow things down and investigate. Mercury is always about gathering information, sifting and sorting through information. Sounds like Gemini and Virgo because Mercury rules those two signs, but being in Scorpio, it has to filter those things through Scorpio now. So it's going to take information and it's going to ask more questions. We're going to just do this naturally and intuitively. We're going to ask more questions. We're going to say why.
Oh, that's good. We need to ask more questions.
We do.
Yeah.
The Scorpio also represents, deep, dark secrets. Mm-hmm. So personally, we're going to ask we're just going to do more research. And we're going to just start digging in deeper and deeper into whatever is on our plate. Again, everybody has a different thing. Depends on what area of your astrology chart, what house it's in.
Right.
Will help you personally. Just look up the houses. If you need to know, your friends your group can always email me their chart info and I'll send them their chart. You can always, it's important to know what that area is so you can really personalize this. But generally speaking, where we are to go deeper.
Yeah. I think it's time for me to have another reading.
Okay, you can do that.
I think everybody needs a reading right now to help us get either numerology or astrology.
I agree.
to get a general sense of what's going on within
Right,
ourselves.
because we can see the time frames and we can see the personalized piece of what's
Right.
going on. Because somebody in their own personal chart right now can be at the end of certain cycles,
Yeah.
and they're tying up lots of loose ends.
Right.
And another person could be at the very beginning. It's just like you
Right.
know, in your numerology, I'm looking at lunar phases. You know, somebody could be in a new moon phase now, that these phases last 28 years, you know, the whole cycle.
Right.
But if somebody's in a new moon phase right now, then they're releasing stuff so they can begin new things. If
Right.
you're in a waning lunar phase, you're releasing stuff to continue to release stuff because you're not ready to bring in new things.
Yeah.
So this is going to vary from person to person. And I suspect in your 9-year cycle, it's like, well, are they a 1 or are they
Right.
this or are they
Most
9 or where are they?
definitely.
Where are
Yeah.
you at in that pattern as well?
Right.
So again, when you hear forecasts like this and you know, just horoscopy stuff online, just recognize that it could not even be true for you what anybody's saying until they interpret it through whatever
Right.
your numbers are or charts are.
Right.
So we know overall the planets represent what's happening here. Again, Mercury in Scorpio wants us to dig in deeper, wants us to smooth over those rough edges, wants us to allow the flow. It's water, it's fixed water, so that's ice, but it's wants us to allow the flow to happen, to trust your instincts, to go with what you think is most important, because we need to learn to allow this process. And if you're somebody who doesn't like to go too deep because it makes you nervous, well, just go one step deeper. You don't have to, you know, dive all the way into hell, but
Right.
you can. Mercury in Scorpio can go into, especially if you're a shamanic practitioner, Mercury in Scorpio can go into the absolute depths, the depths of wherever they go. I don't know the words.
Right. Yeah.
But, and then once Mercury's done its retrograde phase, it can, because it's just about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you can come back out with new information. This is a quite a perfect opportunity for somebody to really do shadow work, any of that stuff that requires, you know, going deep into old hurts, old wounds, the muck of things. You can pull that to the surface.
Yeah.
It'd be very helpful. Now, how does this play out in the world around us? Oh, dear God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, secrets will come out. Conspiracies are pretty strong these days, too. That's thanks to Neptune and Jupiter in a sextile to each other. Conspiracy theories are rampant these days. And not to devalue, I mean, there's always a piece of truth
Mm-hmm.
in
Oh
them.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I'm not, I don't go overboard because I'm a factual person. So
Right.
just because somebody writes it out doesn't mean it's true.
Right.
So here we are. I'm investigating some stuff because I'm interested, even though Mercury's not in Scorpio yet, I am interested in what's going on. So I'm trying to find truth in some things.
Right.
Maybe I will, maybe I won't, but that's how I'm using it. And
Right.
that's how we can all use it. So what are some of the other things? You know, again, if you need to research anything in a very mundane way, we don't have to dig up emotional crap. We don't have to be overly concerned with conspiracy theories or, oh, this president candidate is lying and that one's lying and look at what came up here and look at the lies there. That's going to run rampant. There's absolutely no doubt. That's political season, but we've got the Mercury retrograde in Scorpio now, so it's going to make it even worse.
It kind of almost sounds like it might be time to step out of all that stuff and start really working on ourselves.
Sounds perfect, especially with Mars and Aries. Mars says, get back to you.
Yeah.
Get back to you. Stop putting other people first. Get back to you right now. Be selfish. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And the day Mercury goes retrograde, I mean, Mars and the Sun are in exact opposition, which is going to be incredibly feisty. I want to give you some info here, by the way. The day Mercury entered Scorpio, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Allergy season.
It is allergy season. I just talked for an hour before here. And sometimes I yell when I have this headset on. My neighbors can probably hear me right now. I have to train my voice. Here, Mercury moves into Scorpio on October 7th. And that's that's the day of the vice presidential debates.
Uh-huh. Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So much dirt, and it's going to be so ugly. I want to watch it because I would like to hear what they have to say, but I don't like it when people argue. I
Right.
barely like debates. I'm born with Mars and Aries. And so in my 12th house, so I don't want confrontation. I don't like any of it. I'm learning how to do that. That's
Yeah.
my personal lesson because of
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but I don't like it. And so
Right.
I don't like to listen to those things, but somebody will, but it's going to be really nasty. It's going to be nasty and dirty. It just really is. And so there's that one. What's going on September 29th? There's something going on September 29th. Oh, yeah. September 29th is the first presidential debates. And here's September 27th. That's when it is. I was off. September 27th is when Mercury enters Scorpio. So I was off on that one. I apologize. So
That's okay.
September 27th, Mercury moves into Scorpio. September 29th is the first presidential debates. So it's super interesting.
Yeah, that's in those 3 days
It
before.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So it's not
And
going to go anywhere. It's just going to
no,
be, yeah, like you said, ugly.
yeah, it's going to be ugly. And if we were to animate this, which I can, I just want to get back to September. I want to get to September to October 7th. I apologize. Here we are. October 7th, Mercury is fully, it's not even retrograde yet, but it is in an opposition to Uranus. And so what that represents, there's 3 of those during this time of Mercury in Scorpio. October 7th, Mercury is opposite Uranus, and that is a lot of unexpected information and news will show up. This is on October 7th, and that's the VP. That's when the vice presidents, um, the candidate and the current, have their debate. So this is definitely going to be like kicking butt. It'll be interesting. And
Yeah.
then, so there's that. And then the next time that they are in an opposition, Mercury is retrograde by then. And here's Mercury retrograde on the 13th. And then we get to the 19th, and Mercury again is opposite Uranus on the 19th of October. And October 15th is the third presidential debate. And so this is, and so there's just going to be a lot of, it is going to be, I can't even imagine. Both candidates have major downfalls when it comes to talking.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure how this would be
Right.
incredibly interesting to follow.
Yeah.
But I'll give you some personal information about that too in just a second. And then the next time isn't for another month. And so, and that will be like November 17th. And that's when they'll be opposite there too, really close to being opposite. So that one is something else completely. So I want to just get back to this chart right here, Mercury retrograde. Here we are. So what do we want to do with this? So again, the few days on either side of November 13th, communication can be difficult. Something can come to you that you need to research or investigate. I want to do some positive things here too. Allowing our emotions to flow. If you have some deep emotions that need to come up, this is a time where you can really work through that too. I mean,
Yeah, I
because
think that's all positive, Dorothy.
yeah,
I mean, it's important to be able to research things and to step back and evaluate yourself
yeah,
amongst everything that's going on. I think that's
okay,
very positive.
okay.
I think people tend to resist doing that, but they're going to be forced to do that.
I think
But
so.
just
Yeah,
if we know it, then that sure does help.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it is an important period where we should step away from some of this stuff because, some people won't,
Yeah.
especially the people who are really personally connected to their causes, whether
Right.
it's one candidate or another, this or that, whatever it is,
Right.
because what it can really do is because again, we still remember Mars in Aries retrograde. If you haven't worked out your anger, the people at the top are giving you permission to be violent, you know, and
Yeah.
to do all these things, and it can cause a lot of really destructive behavior. But for
Right.
you and me, I'm not that way. I know you aren't. You know, I want to just be able to just really dig into personally what's important for me.
Right.
So, and that is definitely part of what's going on here. So Mercury retrograde, and he goes all the way back to Libra. I had that number, but I forgot to write it down. And he turns around. I'll wait till he turns around. He goes all the way back to 26 degrees of Libra, and that will be here on November 3rd. Do you know what November 3rd is?
Oh, no stuff. Yeah, election day.
Oh my
Um,
God. It's going to be a, you know what? It's going to be a
Another
problem.
blank show.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
um,
I think I have that
so
chart.
it's Mercury retrograde. It goes into Libra. Is Mercury retrograde ends November 3rd?
Yeah, I'm going to create a new chart for that. So Mercury direct. Yeah, let me just put this in here so I have it. That would be November 3rd. And what time of day does that happen? It happens 12:50 Eastern. There we go. Here's when Mercury is stationary to go direct. It's at 25 degrees of Libra. But mainly it's in the water sign of Scorpio. All of the Mercury retrogrades, they follow a pattern. So a certain year,
Yeah.
they'll be
Oh, yes.
mostly
I
in,
remember that from past things that you've taught
yeah,
us. Yeah.
mostly in the same element. And so this year they've been in water signs. So started with Pisces, Cancer, and now Scorpio. And so, and again, a little bit into Aries. And next year they're going to be in the air signs, a little bit into Libra, and Libra is an air sign. So this gives us just a little signature of the analyticalness of what's going to happen in 2021. We're going to get out of the overly emotional, what we're passionate about. And again, whether good or bad doesn't matter, but what we're really passionate about. And we'll be able to start analyzing this and organizing it. By then, Saturn and Jupiter in the sign of Aquarius, which is very analytical. A lot of people are saying this is the absolute official beginning of the age of Aquarius, even though it may have started ages ago, but
Yeah.
that's January.
Oh.
So here is November 3rd. So it's stationary. So the last time we had a planet, Mercury retrograde on election day was 20 years ago, I think it was. And that was Bush Gore, the
Oh.
Bush
Oh,
Gore
wow.
election.
Hmm.
And that took months
Right.
to straighten out, and court order to actually decide who was the winner.
Yeah.
And so, but that was Mercury stationary to retrograde. This is Mercury stationary to direct. So it's going to take a week or so before we really find out.
Huh.
All right, maybe a few days, maybe 3 or
Yeah.
4 days, but
Yeah.
it will not be that night.
Okay.
It will not. We will not know who's the winner that night because of so many people with absentee balloting.
Mm-hmm.
I just signed up to volunteer at the voting station here in my area, and I just got the lowdown on how they do the absentee ballots, and so it takes time. And
Right. Yeah.
I will probably be doing one of those things because I wanted to know what it's really like and
Yeah.
what it's about, so I can learn more. Mercury and
Right.
Scorpio. That's what that's one of the things I'm doing. So
Right.
it's going to be exhausting, but it's going to be interesting too. And so election day looks amazingly interesting for a little while.
Does it look like there's peace? Is it going to be a peaceful? I mean, hopefully everybody will just do their voting and go home.
We need that.
Yeah, we do.
We need that. But on here, again with Mars retrograde, it's not going to be peaceful stuff. But and I've said this, and I said this in another group recently, and one of the ladies said, "Oh, why don't we all just focus on peaceful outcomes?" And I'm like, I want us to do that, even though I'm going to say that there is going to be a lot of, there will be. I really have no doubt there'll be more of what we're already seeing. I mean, I know where I live, it's not a big deal, but some of the bigger cities, the inner cities, they're really having a hard time with violence and rioting, and it's really out of hand. I believe this is just going to increase, and but we can do what we can. I mean, it may just be, like putting sugar on a pile of poo, but I don't know.
I think a collective consciousness, if we all start thinking more positively and
Yep.
realize, and again, I'm lucky. I live out in the country. I don't
Yeah.
know anything about the violence that's going on, thank goodness, in
Yeah.
the cities.
Yep.
But I can always pray and for them to have peace.
Yeah. And
It all
we
works.
need to do that. We need to do that because, you know, personally, I mean, what we are looking for is to be heard. And again, some of it just gets out of control because that's what
Right.
Mars and Aries can represent, violence and war. But it's also, again, can represent us being courageous to speak up for ourselves.
Right.
And so, and yeah, I mean, we still have these two planets, Neptune in Pisces in its own sign. This is just about the collective consciousness.
Hmm.
You know, we get the wool pull over our eyes sometimes too, but the collective consciousness with Jupiter, it's just like, yeah, we can pray and we
Yeah,
can,
we
you
can
know,
do a lot, really, if
we
people
can do
just
a lot.
keep thinking positively and trying to
So
help as much
in
as we can.
indeed, so anybody who's hearing this and watching this, and just do that, you know, do your practice, whatever your practice
Right.
is,
Right.
you know,
Think
just
happy.
send it.
Think
Yeah,
happy
you know,
through
and
everything.
yeah, and be courageous where you need to be.
Yeah.
And the people that are creating violent acts and protesting, we just got to send them that too, because
Right. Most definitely.
that's their light, that's their path, whether we
Right.
consider it light or not. When we shouldn't, well, we can judge. I mean, we don't like it and society says that's not appropriate, but that still doesn't mean that that's person isn't on their
The
path that they're
individual.
supposed to be
That's right.
on.
That's right. So
Yeah,
Mercury ends November 3rd.
it does. The final retrograde of the year ends November 3rd.
Now, when is it stationary in between? Isn't there a time period when it starts, when it stops, and there's like 2 or 3 days in the middle there that it raises a little havoc? Or is that at the end? I don't,
To me, it's the beginning and the end,
it
but
is the
I mean,
beginning.
I see what you mean. You know, halfway through it goes 1, 2, 3 weeks. So 7, so like 12 days in 7. So right around 5 degrees of Scorpio. But to me, I mean, I want us, to me, the bookends are when we feel it the most.
Yeah.
Okay. So the beginning as it's stationary retrograde, and here on November 3rd, stationary direct. Those are the days where we feel the most frustration. And again, for the most part, it's asking you to do your research, to allow the deep emotions to come forth, all the other energies, because again, we're only isolating. That's why I wanted to talk about a few other things too, because there's always more than just the Mercury retrograde.
Mhm. Right.
So allow these things to come through, and allow yourself to feel
Right.
these deep feelings,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
that's what I say too when there's a reading. And if you resist it, that's where your uncomfortableness. You
Yeah.
can't change it.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. So if you can lean into a little bit and work with it, the
Mhm.
knowledge that you give us
Yeah,
helps us to understand that better, so that we can
exactly.
be more aware, more thoughtful of it.
Indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. And I mean, and there are other things here that are, you know, a-okay, honestly.
Yeah.
You know, if with all the Capricorn energies by here, they're all finally direct. They all went retrograde in May. You know, by the time we get to the end of September, early October, all of the Capricorn planets are direct. So we now have an opportunity to figure out what we're rebuilding. You
Mhm.
know, COVID, pandemic, I mean, staying at home, people losing work. I mean,
Yeah.
that helps you to really focus in on, where is my
Right.
security?
Mhm.
What do I need? Where's my security, Capricorn planets currently now? What do I need, Mars and Aries, to feel secure?
Right.
So do that research. And if you're in a panic and anxiety, and again, sleeplessness, you know, some days it's just nothing you can do about it. And other days you get present,
Right.
be present,
Right.
breathe.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know how to do any of that stuff, and you know, the woo woo seems too woo woo for you, stop and breathe, 3 deep
Yeah.
breaths, just close your eyes. You can do that.
Yeah.
And if
I
anybody
know
says what you're doing, you just say, I'm breathing. And you
Yeah.
know, and we have to. but
Right.
that's a practice that will get
It
you
is a practice.
into right now. And right now there is never anything to be worried or anxious about.
You're
that
right.
present moment.
If you say it, and you're so right. If you just
Yeah.
take that moment to say, where am I? What am I? Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, having a lovely conversation with you.
Yep.
Sun's out, everything's wonderful. So
Yeah. Yeah.
we do
So
have
we
to
need
do
to do
that. And
that.
you're right, it is a practice.
It's a practice.
Yeah,
And so the anxiety, well, if of course, I'm not a therapist, so we just put that right out there right now. But I know personally, when I am feeling anxiety, I'm not a person that feels anxiety too often, but it has come up with this stuff. I mean, we are all under a lot of pressure. This is not easy stuff. It is all very hard. And then normal life happens,
right.
you
Yeah,
know?
right.
People get sick, people pass away, you
Yeah,
lose your job, you can't pay your car payment, the car breaks down. There's a boatload of things that happen, which
right.
on a regular day is already stressful, but now we're on overload. So
Yeah,
again, just become present and handle and tackle one thing that's right in front of you. And don't think that far ahead right now.
right.
It is unknown.
Yeah,
We are still, the timelines, we are still trying to figure out where we're
right.
at, and everybody's in a different
And
place.
that's where the fear lies, is the
Hmm.
unknown.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, you got to stick with the stuff that feels comfortable to you.
Yes. Yeah. Comfort food.
Dorothy, I thank you very, very much. I know that I'm
Okay.
going to sign up for my reading because it's the end of almost the end of the year. It's time for me to start thinking about where I am next year in the
Yeah.
astrology world. So I hope
Yep.
all my viewers go. You have your website?
Oh yeah, it's right here.
Oh, there you
NHastrologer.com.
go. So right behind her. Yes, nhastrologer.com. Make
Yeah.
sure you go and get a reading so that you will be more aware of what the
Hmm.
energy is around you next year. And
Yep.
don't forget
And
the
the rest of this
numerology
year.
reading too.
That's right. Indeed. Awesome.
Dorothy, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
I
you.
always love talking to you. This is one
This
of
is good.
my most listened to and watched videos. So
Awesome.
yeah, I
Perfect. Well,
appreciate it.
you guys come here too, and I do a weekly thing.
Yeah, that's
And there's
right.
always more. There's always
That's
more. So
Yeah, there is always more, isn't
always more.
there? Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Sue.
See you next Mercury Retrograde.
All right. I'll be here.